How to do a podcast. 3, 2, 1. MLS Aces Podcast. This is your host, Tom Sweezy, joined by Jason Vivang for episode 330. Jason, this is where we're at.
That's it, man. We're killing it.
Even that intro didn't feel good. I'll be honest. That intro didn't feel good. But...
No, it was fine. You know what? We're here. We're week 3 of MLS play has happened. Champions League is still,
a thing.
Just don't go back and listen to last week's episode.
Yeah. Well, we'll talk a little bit about it, but yeah, I can't speak for you. I'm mentally doing just as well as what Cincinnati and Seattle did last night.
I've had a rough soccer week in general. Yesterday was just a rough day in general in terms of soccer games. So we're just gonna pretend it didn't happen.
Just know, Jason, you'll never walk alone. That's it. That's my only thing I really can ever say about Liverpool. I got nothing else. My Premier League knowledge is. Like, obviously, I watch the global game and I pay attention. I know the stars, but, like, the nerdiness that I get into with Major League Soccer is not there for the Premier League.
It's pretty hard to do that in multiple leagues.
I only have one.
Like, I tried following the NBA a little, like, pretty closely, and, like, I'll watch games, at night, but it's just so difficult. Like, there's so many different players move around, things happen, and I'm like, when did this happen?
I was the kid that could probably tell you like every starting lineup for like every Major League Baseball team growing up. Like I was like that. Like
that's actually impressive.
Who like knew it?
Probably had your spreadsheets for that too.
that was off the dome. But now I'm like, I barely know who the left fielder is for the Mets on a weekly basis. Like
when the Cubs were really good, like when they won a few years back, or what now it's like. Actually much longer than a few years.
Now it's a decade ago.
Crazy. But like I knew almost all the players, and now I'm like, I go to the game, I'm like, who are these people?
Did you just get called up from AAA? Do I know?
Like, am I getting called up? Like, do I know these people? Are they professionals?
Back in my day, back in my childhood, one of my favorite first basemen not on the Mets was Derek Lee, right? First baseman, Derek Lee. Loved him. He wasn't even that good, but loved him. Shout out Derek Lee. That's all I got to say.
Yeah.
Okay, Jason, let's
just
dive
a little tangent to start the episode, even though we're probably going to get to MLS action at minute 40 of this episode.
I mentally needed a Derek Lee reference to get me this, okay? So that's where I'm at.
Just and literally 99% of people listening probably don't know who Derek Lee is.
Well, if he's listening, that's all I care about.
Friend of the pod?
Friend of the pod, Derek Lee. Derek Lee loves the Chicago Fire, okay? All right, let's talk about the USMNT stuff first, just because I feel like we can talk through that, and then we'll roll through everything MLS related second. Mauricio Pochettino and his staff have announced the final roster for the 2025 CONCACAF Nations League Finals. The goalkeepers called up Matt Turner, Zach Steffen, Patrick Solti. Fullbacks Anthony Robinson, Joe Scally, Marlon Fossey. Center backs Tim Ream, Cameron Carter-Vickers, Mark McKenzie, Chris Richards, and Austin Trusty. Midfielders Tyler Adams, Johnny Cardoso, Tanner Tessman, Weston McKennie, Eunice Musa, Diego Luna, Gio Reyna. Wingers Christian Pulisic, Timothy Weah, and strikers Patrick Sargent. This is it, folks. Wow. Josh Sargent, Patrick Ajiman, and Brian White. Jason, outside of getting half those names wrong, we'll start with any immediate names not on this list that you were surprised about. I had 2.
Go with your 2. Maybe like a Sam Vines. I guess I'm not like surprised, but the fullbacks just feel like a little thin to me. Obviously, like Dest is hurt. Obviously just came back, so he wasn't going to be called up for this. But I do worry, like, I think fullback is one of those positions where depth is really important. And, I mean, if Anthony Robinson's healthy, he's starting playing 90 minutes. Like, everybody knows that at this point.
It's funny how I feel like we used to be like, and not even that long ago on the podcast, talking about how we had 17 right backs that we trusted, and then it was just Anthony Robinson and Tim Ream at left back, and now we have like 17 center backs and like 10 strikers, and now, you know what I'm saying? Like,
well, and I guess some of those center backs, like, you could move to the outside. It's just they offer different things. Like, I think like when we have Robinson and Dest fully fit, fully ready to play a full game, the amount that changes for the attack is so big. Like maybe it slightly impacts defense in some ways in a negative way, but I don't think enough where like the attack doesn't outweigh the gains from that.
I'll also say we've seen Pochettino play a little bit of a 3-man back with the U.S. so far, which has been interesting and maybe a reason why, like, you know, he's calling in like more center backs and we can push Robinson and Scally up the field.
Well, and like you said, there is a lot of center backs. Like I like seeing Mark McKenzie in here. Chris Richards has been playing well. Trusty's playing.
Yeah.
Cameron Carter-Vickers, they're all playing well. Even Tim Ream, he's playing, you know, week in and week out. So like that's a lot of depth already. And that doesn't even include like Miles Robinson.
Well, that's the thing, right? Like all of these center backs and we can start with the center backs, I guess. All of these center backs are starting at their clubs or, you know, starting caliber at their clubs. And right, Tim Ream's been a dude who's been around. I think he's more of just a veteran leader. Even if he wasn't starting at Charlotte, I think, and even if he was coming off the bench is what I'm saying. Like, I feel like he still might get the call up in that sense.
At this point, though, do we feel like this isn't against Tim Ream at all? Like, I understand bringing him in. He does play, actually, obviously. But, like, the veteran leader at this point, like, could just be Christian Pulisic. Like, we don't need to bring in someone 34 years old every time for, like, an aged presence.
I don't think Tim Ream's he's not what he was.
That's why I don't want it in like a Tim Ream angle, because I'm not trying to like discount what Tim Ream brings, but I don't like the fact that we sometimes talk about Tim Ream as like he's in because of his leadership and his like age a little bit, because it's not like Tyler Adams has been in huge games. Weston McKennie's been in huge games. Musa, even Reyna's been in big games. I'm not saying he's going to be coming in for leadership at this point in his career, but like Pulisic's been in huge games. Like a lot of these guys, while they're not 34 or whatever, or in their 30s, have played so many games for club and country that like, I don't know if we need to consider Tim Ream as like coming in. I think actually we should just say Tim Ream's coming in because he deserves it.
You know what? That is a fair point, Jason. And the only thing I was going to say and add to that is the only center back that I really feel like I would consider in this group over Tim Ream, or I'd say even over, right, like maybe the next center back or a center back that's maybe playing like quote unquote worse than Ream right now is Austin Trusty, is maybe Miles Robinson. But Miles Robinson's play hasn't even been like stellar. So it's like I
feel like he's also played so many games like in the last year and a half. So I get kind of like some different. Also, like
for a trophy,
when it comes to center backs, like if you're the third or fourth or even fifth center back on this roster, like realistically, how much are you playing? And I like seeing some sort of new faces every once in a while. Like I know Mark McKenzie's not necessarily a new face.
He's been playing well at Toulouse, though,
and I think he earned this spot, and I'm glad. Like it's like he hasn't been in the U.S. team in a while. I feel like. So.
No, for sure. And I think the one thing when we talk outside of the center backs and about the larger group, like just for U.S. fans to keep in mind, Malik Tillman out injured, Ricardo Pepi out injured, Balogun and Dest returning from injury. So, like, you know, we do have some players who are probably be called in on the injury borderline right now. But Jason, the two players that I was thinking of immediately that weren't injured and I think have been playing well enough to get a call up was Alex Zendejas for Club America and then Brendan Aronson for Leeds. You know, Brendan Aronson, I think, has had a very nice bounce back season compared to what 2 years ago, I think, or 3 years ago, or no, last year, whatever, in terms of him like bouncing back and forth on loan, right? And then Zendejas has been one of the better attackers on the best club in Mexico, potentially the best club in North America over the last year and a half. So I don't know. That was it. Zendejas bothers me a little bit more than Aronson. I don't love Brendan Aronson as a full international winger. I think he should be played more central if you're going to consider him at the international level. But it's also a very tough group to get into.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's the toughest area, but I'm happy to see Diego Luna in this team for multiple reasons. But yeah, that's interesting.
I'm gonna say the only reason, not the only, that this is a joke. This is a joke, everyone. The only reason why he got in was because of his big balls. That was it. You know, Pochettino has to love him from that. Just subbing on, or
I mean, I feel like that might be part of it. Like he probably knows he can trust Diego Luna right now.
Good mentality. Good mentality.
I think I have like one like not issue, but like little thing that I feel like we repeatedly see in these teams, and it's like the goalkeeper group. I'm just left kind of lost on because like I don't understand what we're trying to build for. Like obviously we have a World Cup next year. We have lots of international games, preparation for that. Going forward after that, there's even more, you know, it's not like I don't know. I just feel like I'm not going to sit here and say like Zach Steffen didn't work his way back into the conversation because I think he totally did. And I actually do like Patrick Schulte and Zach Steffen in this team. I don't love the Matt Turner call up, and maybe it's a hot take, but like he's not playing at all. Yeah. Like when's the last time he's played a full game?
Yeah.
Like that, I would rather see, and I know like Slonina's injured, and obviously I'm slightly biased towards the Fire guys because I'm
Ethan
a Fire
Horvath
fan.
Is in the conversation.
But he's not really playing that much either.
Yeah. Fair.
Like, don't we want people who play? Like,
I think
especially at goalie, like if Matt Turner's starting these games, which I think based on recent history is sort of the expectation.
Yeah.
I would rather Zach Steffen or Patrick Schulte or even like a Chris Brady to be starting these games. And I'm not saying Chris Brady's ready. I don't actually know. I'm just simply saying if Matt Turner hasn't played in months and we're just going to throw him in goal, like I know he's a quality keeper. I'm not trying to like diss Matt Turner at all. I'm just simply saying like I feel like play time should matter, especially for goal, or I guess for any position. But like, I don't know. Like he's just practicing for Palace right now.
It's the age-old argument that there are coaches and managers out there that believe goalkeepers, you don't need to be playing every single week to be ready enough to be like a number one.
That's fine. But when is the last time he played a full game?
And
like, I should have maybe looked that up before this, but it's at least been over a month.
I still believe Matt Turner's talent-wise the best goalkeeper in the USMNT pool, but I don't also disagree with you in the sense of, you know, he hasn't seen a game when. Schulte has seen games. Steffen has seen games.
Schulte's been in some huge games. I mean, like really, really, just this past week he's been in some major games.
I just personally think like the goalkeeping position oddly for so long wasn't an issue that it has quietly, I think, been kind of kicked under the rug that it is an issue.
I don't even think it is an issue. I think it's like, I mean, I think there's talent. It's just, I think we were so lucky that Tim Howard for like nearly 20 years was basically the number one. And then
but it was Tim Howard. And if it wasn't Howard, it was Guzan and Friedel was there for a little bit. You know what I'm saying? Like we had like 4 options that could start that were playing big minutes in Europe or MLS or whatever.
But we have options that are playing big minutes places. We're just calling in the guys that aren't playing minutes. Like if Horvath was called in and we had Matt Turner, Ethan Horvath, and let's just say Patrick Schulte. Like if Patrick Schulte's the third out of those 3, that doesn't make sense to me personally. And that's nothing against Turner's ability or Horvath's ability. Obviously, we've seen them both have really good games for their clubs and for the country. I mean, I just think like Pochettino even said when he was hired, like one of his things was it doesn't necessarily matter where they're playing. And this wasn't in terms of goalies or whatever. It was just in terms of players. It's not necessarily where, because, you know, there's the whole MLS versus Europe debate or world or whatever. Yeah.
But mine was more of a joke. It's not MLS versus the world, but yeah.
No, but like there is kind of like that debate, I guess, more so in terms of fans. And he kind of said, you know, I'd rather see someone playing 90 minutes each week. And I think that does kind of hold true with a lot of these picks. It's just the goalies that doesn't make sense to me because I don't expect Patrick Schulte to get any minutes or probably Zach Steffen to get any minutes in that I guess I'm a little more annoyed about it than I thought going into this conversation because I don't understand it. And personally, I think it's leading towards kind of what you're saying is more like confusion surrounding that position because we have people starting week in and week out. Do we have and again, Soleymane hurt. I'm pretty high on him for obvious reasons. But could he be the guy that or even Schulte? Schulte's a good example. If he was in Europe, are we looking at this way differently and saying, why is he not playing if he was, let's say, in the championship for a team trying to get promoted? I haven't looked at the recent standings, but
Leeds United. Well, Leeds are in first. Whatever. And sure.
Sunderland. I think Sunderland's high up there at this point. But let's just say he was playing at in a top 5 club in the championship, going for promotion, and he was playing every week. Are we going to sit here and not start him? And obviously he's at Columbus, but he's starting every week on one of the better MLS teams. They've just, they lost, but they just played in CONCACAF Champions Cup. I don't know. I think that matters more to me. I would, this could be all a moot point if he does start. We don't.
Matt Turner just doesn't see a minute, and Jason's like, yeah, no.
It's not even against Matt Turner. It's just I want people playing. And goalies to me is he's sat on the bench for so long.
I agree.
At Crystal Palace, and even before that, he wasn't that good.
That's just where it comes. I agree. I think Matt Turner has slowed down. I think the same way Zach Steffen slowed down when he went from Columbus to City, and then
and both of those guys worked their way into the conversation because of MLS. It's not like they made their name in Europe. They made their name in MLS.
Zach Steffen's better moments with the USMNT came when he was starting for the Revs. And I agree with that. And personally, my personal opinion is, yes, I think no matter if you're a goalkeeper, striker, whatever, you should be playing, I think, and getting regular minutes to get a national team call up.
Out of our goalie player pool, Horvath is the only one who didn't come from MLS. Far as top of my head.
I think he came up through an MLS academy, but it was also at a different.
One more point for MLS.
Whatever.
But major game time has all come in Europe, and his best moments have come in Europe.
Exactly. 100%. I'm gonna transition us away from goalkeeper
from my little bit of a rant for the.
I think it's fair. I just wanted to give you the moment for your rant. I think it's fair. The midfield, we've mentioned a few names, right? Very happy with the Tanner Tessman inclusion. He's been great for Lyon, and the same with Johnny Cardoso for Real Betis. Obviously glad to see Tyler Adams healthy and whatnot. But anyone else in the midfield or any specific midfielder there kind of stand out to you? I know you mentioned Luna before.
Yeah, I like to see Luna in this team. Is he one of the only ones from that January camp? I think Patrick Schulte was in that January.
Patrick Ajima and Brian White, and I want to get to the striker group, and we can go straight to the striker group because
I like seeing Musa every time because I think what he brings to the national team is different than kind of most of our midfielders.
Technically he was listed as a forward on the graphic that got put out, and I put him in the midfield because I don't really like him out on the wing. But again, maybe it's the Brendan.
I like him more centrally too, but I'll trust Pochettino, I guess, in that regard.
I like Yunus Musa a lot. To me, though, he's either fantastic or he's kind of having a shit show of a game.
Is that not Weston McKennie though? Also, too.
No. Weston McKennie's more of you don't know if he's going to choke a player out.
Higher highs and same lows, maybe.
Yeah.
I think McKennie has very high highs. When he's on, it's a huge impact. But when he's invisible, it's a huge impact.
100. But I think that's a lot of these guys that we talk about on the USMNT roster, to be perfectly honest. I do think
Tyler Adams healthy, though, his what is it called? Basement? What ceilings and floors? Whatever.
Yep, there you go. Basement. He has a basement too. If you
his floor. That's floor. Why did I say basement? His floor is a good player. I don't feel when Adams is healthy and not necessarily having one of his best games, he's probably still impacting in a positive way.
I'll say
Pulisic probably same way, but obviously Pulisic is up there with
If I'm looking at the current player pool in 2025, and if I say everyone's healthy, the only 3 players that I can say I think you consistently throw out there and they will not, their average performance is not a bad game, is Christian Pulisic, is Anthony Robinson, and is Tyler Adams.
Yeah.
People can say whatever they want about Serginho Dest. He's had fucking stinkers. Weston McKennie, the same thing.
I think Dest is probably 4 or 5, and I think Weah is probably 4 and 5, and then I would probably start going to like the McKennies, Musos.
Sure, maybe Weah and Dest are next on that list. I just don't have them in the same top 3.
No, I agree. I think there is a drop off because but yeah, I mean, and if you look at Pulisic versus Weah, like when Pulisic's having a bad game, you don't notice it as much. Whereas if Weah's not really contributing, I feel like Weah's getting way closer to that consistent, at least for the U.S. team.
For sure. For Juventus, maybe not, but that's maybe not his fault. Juventus is a little bit of a mess. I want to
their funds are a little bit of a mess. So
I want to finish up the USMNT conversation with the striker group: Josh Sargent, Patrick Agyemang, and Brian White. An interesting group. Obviously,
I think this is a super fun group.
There's a lot of striker injuries right now, right? Again, Ricardo Pepi, Florian Balogun's coming back from injury right now. Brandon Vasquez is still picking it up with his transition back to MLS. I mean, I can't even. Haji Wright, I think, he's either injured
I think he just got back.
Okay, so he just got back from injury.
He was like 1 or 2 weeks ago.
So obviously, Pochettino, like we said before, going back with 2 names from January camp and Agyemang, a guy who scored.
Is Agyemang like the biggest surprise to you, or Brian? Are these the 2 biggest surprise on this whole team?
It's not a surprise in the sense of there's a shit ton of injuries. So
also, there's a lot of talent in both of those guys.
Look, I love Brian White. I love Patrick Agyemang. Do I think both are going to be consistent USMNT names moving forward? No. Do I think either?
Agyemang, I could see. Brian White is maybe on the upper levels. Yeah, I think he's 29 years old or something.
Well, that means, again, different ages, different spots in their careers, whatever it may be. I would love to see. I mean, Josh Sargent's the starter here. He's been on fire for Norwich. You can't deny that. But I'd like to see Agyemang get some minutes and see if he can replicate what he was doing.
I fully this is a group where I do think we'll see potentially all 3 of them. I wouldn't be surprised at all. Sargent's starting every game, but is he playing 90 minutes every game?
I wouldn't be surprised to see most of the players named on this group besides 2 goalkeepers and maybe a center back. I pick a center back and pick 2 goalkeepers. I don't care what the names are. I think you'll see most of the other guys. That's just my take. Maybe
I don't know if that's that much of a hot take. You're probably right, though.
No, I don't need it to be a hot take nonetheless. All right, let's transition over into.
Hopefully, we see some goalkeepers.
Do you have anything else you want to say?
No. I mean, I'm good with this roster. Overall, obviously, I ranted about the goalkeepers, but it's a good team. I can't really sit here and be bummed out in any way. I think the performances speak for themselves for most of these players. And I think that's probably where my little goalkeeper rant came from. But yeah,
I would if I could rant, I'm not going to because I don't feel also that strongly, is probably just the Alex Zendejas not addition, but not whatever. But
it's a competitive team.
It is.
I think that's kind of just what it is at this point.
The USMNT player pool has gotten pretty big, I think, with international potential talent. So that's a good thing, except for the goalkeeper position. All right, let's go over to
keeper position has talent. It's just we're down calling us right.
Let's go to the transfers. The MLS transfers in the last week. There was just 3 players that I feel like we should quickly touch on. One, if we're talking USMNT player pool, Duane Holmes came over from Preston North End to the Houston Dynamo. The 30-year-old central midfielder also has played out wide in his career, is coming to Houston in what I kind of see as the Coco Carrasquilla replacement. I feel like Jack McGlynn was like the Ache replacement, and now Holmes is like the Carrasquilla replacement. But look, Duane Holmes has played a ton. I think he has a close to 150 championship games in his career. He has 380 career games played. He has been on a little bit of a decline with Preston in the last year or two, but he has 3 goal contributions this season in 35 games. He's been playing a ton of minutes. He has 2 caps for the USMNT. I mean, I like it. It's a veteran. It's a dude who's been around now. He has played at the international level. I'd argue back in like 2014, Duane Holmes should have been a consistent USMNT figure, so he should have more caps, but that's a former version of Tom Sweezy arguing about Duane Holmes on this podcast.
More rants.
Okay, let's go back. No, Duane Holmes, I don't know if you have any super big take on him. But
I mean, I like it for Houston because, and obviously Houston's changed quite drastically losing Ache and Carrasquilla. But I think this is kind of like another step towards what they can be. And what, Houston at their best needed kind of strong midfield. Like they built off of that. So, him and McGlynn, like, do I think it's going to be instant perfection? No, but I think this team at least is going to be competitive in most of their games. And I think adding Duane Holmes is, Duane Holmes is
Holmes. I love it. You were thinking Duane Jones there.
I was getting confused, but either way, like, now I lost what I was saying, but yeah, good overall for Houston, I think.
The only thing that I'm going to say, and we'll throw in some MLS Week 3 results here and with the transfers. Obviously, after Houston got embarrassed in Week 2 by Inter Miami, they come back, play Columbus in Columbus' stadium. Columbus rotating due to Champions Cup play and stuff like that. But Houston held a 0-0 draw. Andrew Tarbell had to come up with 5 saves in this game. Wasn't the greatest performance from Houston, but it was definitely better. I think, obviously, again, Houston's biggest issue, again, I know they just let up a shit ton of goals to Miami 2 weeks ago, but is the offensive production, is maybe kind of maintaining that possession, and maybe Duane Holmes brings a little bit of that and some, veteran leadership to that. And we'll talk crew in a little bit, but I don't know if you have anything you want to say about that game, Jason, go for it.
There's not much to add about that game, honestly, that you didn't just say.
Completely fair. All right, let's go to Inter Miami then, and Inter Miami just keep doing it.
I was going to say, like, the only thing I have to say about this move is I fully expect it to be amazing.
To be an amazing player.
Yeah.
They signed 21-year-old attacking midfielder Baltasar Rodriguez from Racing Club in Argentina on loan for the year. The former Argentine U23 player who, shockingly, he played under Javier Mascherano with the Argentine U23s, won the Copa Sudamericana and the Recopa Sudamericana with Racing. At 21 years old, he has 68 games under his belt. He has 3 games played this season for Racing in their, the beginning of the Argentine season. So, has pretty good experience for a young kid. Again, Jason, you hit it pretty fair there. The only thing I'm going to say is Javier Mascherano has a clear connection to young Argentine talent. And this is probably going to be the first of many. For however long Mascherano hangs around Inter Miami, we will probably see that connection flow through. So,
I don't know if you want to talk about their weekend game because
that
was a big game. I think that was one that I put as like a game of the week. Obviously, Miami go down a man, which, like, at this point, are they going to get a red card in every game? I know the Ian Frey one got rescinded. But
what I want to say,
we're 3 for 3 here.
What I want to say to Miami or Mascherano or whatever, whoever's running this team right now, Messi, I just want to be like, just because Messi plays and has the production of like 2 players at once doesn't mean you actually have to remove a player.
He didn't even play in this game where like he could have played, and I think they had him in case they were down or tied or something.
Yeah,
but it didn't even matter, and they were down against one of the better teams in the conference. Arguably, Charlotte, which we've talked about, who looked good at times but couldn't ultimately get a goal at all here. I don't know, man.
This is what I'll say. Well, I guess I'll stick with Miami first. And, right, like, Tadeo Allende has now scored a goal in 4 straight games across all competitions. The dude has adjusted well. Suarez
also, that link-up play with Suarez looked like they've been playing together for like 10 years. Let alone
I know Suarez came out
weeks.
with the comment that he has to have like injections in his knees before every games, and he's like struggling to walk and shit. Like, I really feel bad for that. But the dude has 5 assists in his last 4 games. Like, he's balling when he's out on the field. Like, I don't want to see it end. Like, I know he's almost 40. Like, it's sad. I just don't want to see it end.
I just like everything I've ever said about Suarez when he joined Miami. Just throw away at this point. Like, just never go back and listen to it. There was never any doubt.
A lot of people were wrong. That includes you. That includes me. That includes many others. So don't.
This team though is like, even without Messi, still so good. And it is crazy to think about that they're hitting on these signings, and then they're going to go sell probably Allende for $13 million.
I think he's a loan player, so they have to buy him first.
Well, they'll buy him and then sell him. That's how it is.
Fine. Allende will be the star in 2026. It's fine. No, it's so true though, right? Like
Segovia's also been killing it. Obviously, he didn't get any on the score sheet in this game, but like, both of those guys have been amazing.
He's washed up. He can't get on the score sheet. Like what I'll just say though, and I said it all last year about Miami, and I think it's the thing, right? Like the Busquets, the Suarez's, Messi's, they're going to carry this team to being, contenders in everything they play in, but they also need the development and the buy-in from all the young talent. Noah Allen, whether he's playing left back or center back, is killing it, and I think he's on the defense of like the Greek, if he's going to go play for the Greek national team or whatnot. Yannick Bright has been such a strong addition from the Super Draft last year. He had a great game in this one. It's just, I said it last week.
They're scoring at a league best pace again,
and they're doing it down a man most of the time playing. Like, and they're balancing CONCACAF champions.
And they have had Messi for what, a game?
Literally, Messi's barely played this year. The only thing that I just want to say about Charlotte, because we probably won't touch them again. Well, actually, let's touch them right now. Good transition. I forgot they were the third signing of the week. So Charlotte FC have signed 28-year-old left back Souleymane Doumbia from Standard Liège. He is a Ivory Coast international, joining his fellow Ivory Coast international Wilfried Zaha on this roster. It's going to be a loan for the 2025 MLS season. Doumbia is a former French Cup champion. He came up through the PSG Academy. He has 11 games played this year for Standard Liège, not really getting a ton of minutes, but obviously the profile is there that he is a talented piece. And to me, it's like, okay, we can't rely on Tim Ream to play every single game for us at left back. And obviously Malanda and Privet are undoubtedly one of the strongest center back duos in the league. Doumbia to me is like, okay, do we need to rest Privet or Malanda? We can bump Ream at center back. Do we need to rest Ream? Doumbia can play. Like, it's such just a nice depth rotational piece to keep what is, I still think, the best defense in the league healthy and ready to go, and everyone kind of fit. So, or if someone is injured, you have a piece there that can kind of slot in.
Yeah, I mean, I think it just gives them consistency to have the best defense or one of the best defenses in the league, no matter what now. Like, oh no, you lost someone to an injury for a month. It's not nearly a worry for this club. Now they just gotta score more goals.
I mean, and Charlotte were good defensively in the loss to Miami, right?
I mean, I was a little disappointed. You're up a man for at least the entire half.
I don't think that's on the defensive efforts. I think
it's definitely not.
And it's not on Wilfried Zaha either.
But if we're expecting a Charlotte to be a top team in the East, and you're playing a top team in the East rival in Miami, and you're up a man for, I don't know the exact amount of minutes, but I think it was like at least 50.
It was almost an hour.
Yeah, 60 minutes. Like, I expect either don't concede or score.
I fully agree with you. And I think Wilfried Zaha, he looked frustrated because he was on the ball a bunch, and he was getting fouled a bunch.
Yeah.
Like,
they basically were like, you're not running past us. Like, you're just going to be on the ground or you're not getting the ball.
I mean, it's nice. It's almost nice that it was like, okay, we'll let anyone beat us but you. And they,
They did.
Abada, Ajiman, Pepiel, whoever it was, like, didn't take advantage of the open spaces that were created by just defenders swallowing up Zaha. And that's what happened. And it looked a little bit more like what Charlotte was looking like last year. I think it'll get better. I
definitely think it'll get better. I think it's partially this happened so early in the season that I think when you bring in Zaha into a team, the
time to adjust.
It's like a magnet, right? Like you bring in him and all the players around him realize, okay, we can work off Wilfried Zaha and play with him. And then they get into that, and it's so early, and then he's basically taken out of the game because of the Miami's defense. Huge credit to them.
Well, that's what I was about to say.
And it feels like Charlotte stalled. Like they basically were like a car that stalled for like a half hour, and they just weren't ready to get back into it.
Yeah, it's so early that I don't think they know what to do if that happens. And maybe
for sure they didn't know what to do when that happens.
They're like, he's supposed to. Oh, okay, and
it's like, oh wait, he's not crossing the ball in. What happens now? It's like even with the advantage.
Exactly. Yeah. I think it'll get better. I think those are these early season games that you learn from over the course of a year, or if Charlotte wants.
I mean, Dean Smith will figure it out.
You got to trust Dino. Good old Dino. All right, let's go into CONCACAF Champions Cup round of 16.
I'm pretty sure I said we're just gonna skip this section.
No. We got to talk about it, and we'll tie it into.
I'm just kidding.
To week 3 results too. But Columbus Crew versus LAFC. Columbus Crew, big 2-1 win at home, but away goal and you lose technically on the aggregate. But
they were gonna lose regardless.
Yes.
If it was 2-0, they would have lost too.
I mean, exactly, right? And that's what when I was watching this game, you and I were texting because this game was on during the Sounders Cruz Azul game. So after obviously what happened with the Sounders game, we'll touch on. I turned to this game on CONCACAF's YouTube page and I'm watching, and Dennis Bouanga just absolutely putting the dagger into the heart of every Crew fan in Columbus, Ohio was. If I was a Crew fan, I'd be devastated. I'm not a Crew fan, so I laughed. Like, it's funny. Jason Russell.
Are you devastated? I mean, I think, in the moment you had a lot of hope when you go up 2-0, but, like, going into that game, you knew it was a huge uphill battle.
They almost did it, though.
They did almost do it, and that's, I think, credit to a Columbus team that's been through a lot of tough games. Also a reason why, like, I'm just not going to write them off this season at all because –
they can do that.
Yeah, because we know the quality's there, and we know that these guys have been through everything. Like, what moment have they not seen yet? So
fair, literally.
I think credit to them to even be in this game against LAFC.
Wilfried Nancy has coached in every game that you can possibly, outside of a U.S. Open Cup final, maybe he has coached in every single game that you can possibly think of in North America. Right? So LAFC they win the aggregate. Dennis Bouanga with the late winner after Crew goes up 2-0 at the half. Fantastic game from Diego Rossi to do everything possible. He scores a PK, assists on the Jason Russell Rowe goal. Jason Russell Rowe also keeps scoring. Probably should start him every single game. But the one other thing that
addition by subtraction there.
Right. The one other thing I just want to mention is we got to see the debut of Cengiz Ünder, the new Turkish winger for LAFC. He assisted on the Bouanga goal technically, like they gave him the assist. Assist is a strong stretch there, but did have the pass that led to Bouanga, being Dennis Bouanga. But he looked good in his limited minutes, and again, he's on a DP deal for half a season. I'll be interested to see, I guess.
This Champions Cup is, I know we're going to talk a little bit more, but obviously there's a Miami second leg they got to finish up, but we are scarily looking down a one semifinal team.
Oh, it is. We'll talk more, but it's either looking like it's going to be Miami or LAFC in the semifinal versus a Liga.
I mean, one of them's going to have to. I mean, assuming Miami can get through, obviously up 2-0.
Yes.
But I think we're in a position where it's like
not great.
Sort of basically one MLS team has a shot.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and we will put all of our eggs in that MLS team's basket, likely. So, Crew, obviously, we mentioned it before. 0-0 draw on the weekend with Houston. The back line defense was playing well. Schulte, all of that stuff. And then LAFC had, I don't know what we want to call it, an embarrassment of a game against the Seattle Sounders, right? I'm trying to find my notes here.
I think Seattle really figured out how to score, I guess. It's also so this is my thing, because I know we're going to talk about Seattle. Maybe we want to go to LAFC first. I don't know.
No. I was just going to say it's funny in terms of they were two rotated lineups, and Seattle still wins 5-2, and it was just a mess. But go into what you were going to say.
I think with Seattle, and obviously we're going to talk about some injuries that they had midweek and even over the weekend with Pedro de la Vega, but I kind of feel more confident with them, with the fact that their rotated squad won 5-2, and now they're.
Do you feel confident?
I mean, I'm still pretty high on Seattle. I think outside of this really crappy midweek loss, I don't know. It's tough to win in Mexico, man. Like I'm not trying to read too much into that. On the other hand, it's like, focus on your competition now. MLS season.
How I'm feeling about Sounders and MLS action, I feel good.
Yeah.
I do think the loss midweek stings, though. Yes, it's tough to do.
But I mean, you also lose potentially Areola to
season-ending injury. That
potentially, looked horrible. I think Jordan Morris may be out for a few weeks at least. Who knows how long Pedro de la Vega's out?
And I thought there was one other injury, but if not, it doesn't even matter.
But even with those big names out, it's not like this team isn't deep. Like, this team's built to sustain injuries, and it feels like every year they have to sustain injuries. Like, what is going on over there? What's in the water?
I guess I'll just say the team was built deep to. I don't know if it was to sustain injuries. I think it was to make runs in competitions, and now you're not running the competitions that you were planning on making a run in. Like, that's the one thing that I'm like, the loss to Cruz Azul midweek fucking sucks, and it should have been better. Like, there's no other way of me.
It also just wasn't a good performance. Obviously the scoreline doesn't show them having a good performance, but it almost feels worse than 4-1.
So I guess let me go into it. Cruz Azul does eliminate the Seattle Sounders midweek in Champions Cup. Cruz Azul with a 4-1 win down in Mexico. I almost want to say, and maybe I'm wrong, I'm on the fence here. I almost want to say the scoreline makes the result seem worse than what it was. I think the Sounders were in it for most of the time. Then Paul Arriola's injury at halftime. Then Jesus Ferreira gets subbed out. Into not that long into the second half, and then you can't predict that only a few minutes later Jordan Morris is going to pull up on a hamstring, right? And then
also this was 2-1 for 80 minutes, it was 2-1-0 for most of the game,
and you were only a goal away from advancing because you needed an away goal, and then they started subbing out defenders for offensive pieces, and the fourth goal came late, and the third goal came late too. But
I feel like 2-1 is the true scoreline in this game, but and that's why the scoreline makes it look worse than it was, but also it was worse than 2-1. I feel.
No, I think the Sounders played poorly, and it's a deserved elimination, and there's too much that I think falls on, right? Multiple MLS teams can't compete in the same year Champions Cup wise. It was right, the Sounders did it and they won it, however, a long time ago now. Right? 2022.
That's not that long ago.
What? Okay, fine. And then LAFC made them.
I was just talking about I don't know what I was talking about.
I'm just saying, and this is maybe my larger rant for the podcast, is it pisses me off, and Cincinnati's in the same bucket right now, of multiple MLS teams can go try to win this competition. It doesn't need to be we need to put all of our hopes and dreams onto one MLS team every single year to make a final and beat two Liga MX opponents on the way to do it. We shouldn't all have to throw our hat on Miami or LAFC to do it at this point. That's what annoys me. Cincinnati, Seattle, LA Galaxy, you all could have competed for this. And obviously Galaxy,
well, I don't know about the Galaxy.
But even if Galaxy move on, they have to go play Tigres. How do you feel about Tigres Galaxy? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's.
I feel amazing about Tigres.
I guess that's just where my annoyance comes in. And sure, Seattle with a rotated roster beats a rotated LAFC midweek when both of their eyes weren't set on midweek action. That's great. I don't care because both teams are going to be there.
I mean, yeah, they won 5-2 in week 2 or week 3 of the MLS season. Like, with rotated squads on both sides. At the end of the season, that result may matter, may more than likely won't specifically matter in terms of placement.
There's a good chance we see that this is the Western Conference final this year. There is a really good chance that that's what this is.
In which case, like, that result really didn't matter.
Exactly. So I guess that's what annoys me is that.
I mean, I think you're completely right, but it's also just a different, like, I kind of don't understand. Are you arguing against, like, I don't really understand what you're arguing here, because, like, I feel like
not arguing. I'm just saying.
I know, but, like, the team quality in terms of Liga MX is at the top much higher. Like, let's just not pretend. Like, there's a good chance in this tournament, in the semifinal, we have the one default MLS team because they played each other in the quarters.
Yeah.
The rest are probably Liga MX teams.
I guess I'm saying this. You have clubs like Cincinnati, you have clubs like Sounders, Inter Miami, LAFC, that are all spending way more money, right? And I mean, Cincinnati's case, like, you know, Denke was however 16 million of the offseason spending. So it's all in one player. To me, it's almost just like
Evander.
It's sure. Sorry. Yes. And Evander. You're correct. I apologize about that. So they spent a lot of money on 2 players.
Yeah.
Where it's just MLS needs to open up the reins. And we talk about it every year, and it's the same conversation, but it's why can't we just have clubs spend the way they want to spend? And we're getting closer to it, and I get it. But, like, holy shit.
At least I think there's, like, I get MLS wants their teams to be competitive within MLS, right? Like, I don't think anyone wants – I guess as a Fire fan – well, the Fire spend money, and they're just bad at it. So that's a bad example. But, like, as a fan of a team that doesn't spend as much, like, I don't know, Dallas 5 years ago, like, who wants to be just perennially at the bottom? Like, I watch a lot of Premier League. I like the Premier League. But and there is parity to an extent, but really we're looking at the same 5 teams, 10 teams, 5 teams, like, every single year. And I don't know, I know MLS obviously doesn't want that, but there is definitely a middle ground where they can have the opportunity to spend at a 4th DP even would make a huge difference.
That's what I'm saying is I'm not trying to turn away from the Sounders played shitty. Cincinnati lost 3-1 to Tigres. Like, there we go, folks. Like, there's the cover.
But, like, the thing is, what you're saying is, like, in this round, right? This is what, round 2? Round of 16?
Yeah.
I think the expectation for Liga MX teams is like, oh, they're all going through unless they're playing each other. Versus the expectation for, like, MLS clubs, at least from my perspective, is like, let's hope we can get 2 or 3 teams through.
But that's exactly it, right? Like, what the league says that they want is a league full of parity where anyone can win every single weekend. But
that's not the truth. I mean, every single weekend is kind of the truth, but that's not the truth in terms of season.
But they all, not they all, but Don Garber has also openly stated that they want to be the top league in the region. They want to be the best league in North America, which is Liga MX, right? Like, that's the only other competition right now.
I mean, they're
both of those things can exist at the same time. A league full of parity and being you can't see because of the green screen, and being the best top league in the region. But you need to do more. You need to give clubs. You need to have spending floors, spending ceiling. Sure, I get it, salary cap, but you need to have a spending floor. You need to allow clubs to be able to add more depth and more talent and spend more money on that. And again, we've had this conversation.
Well, I think it's interesting because, like, in North American or I guess American sports, like basketball, there's other competition in the world, but it's not like they play interleague or cross-league competitions.
Yeah.
So when there is a salary cap in an NBA, for instance, or the NFL, it's not actually affecting how the league is perceived, I think, globally, because like the NBA is the top basketball league. Like it just is. The floor of the NBA is, and it's hard to compare because it obviously was created first or whatever. But I think when it comes to like you're saying, oh, if we want to compete globally, or not necessarily globally, but at least in our continent, then you have to kind of remove some chains. And they're trying to, and I get like the parity thing. Like we've even said, I think the bottom of MLS is still better than the bottom of Liga MX, which happens when you have a league that has a salary cap versus doesn't.
Yeah.
And I think like Don Garber in MLS, they like that because the league is competitive every week. You know, I mean, unless you're New England and can't score a goal, like I don't know, but or Toronto, for instance. But like, sure, could Toronto beat the Crew next weekend if they played? I mean, theoretically, yeah, but I'm not betting on it. I don't know. I think there's ways to do both, and I think that's what you're saying as well. But
I agree.
It bothers me in the Champions Cup because I'm sitting here, you know, watching. Going back to last week, I guess, in the first legs, and thinking if these MLS teams don't come away with a win here by at least a goal, like I would rather have 2 goal wins than I don't have a ton of faith. And I can talk myself into rooting for them, and obviously I'm going to root for them, but I can talk myself into Seattle getting a result against Cruz Azul. I can talk myself into Cincinnati getting a result against Tigres. But the reality is that's just super unlikely, and it almost never happens. And the last time it happened was the Crew, where Patrick Schulte played out of his mind, and the whole team was just very, very good. And that's not saying these other teams aren't great, but it's just like that. It doesn't happen. It just doesn't happen.
It takes, and we're steering away from the soccer, and it's my fault. So I hand up. The last thing that I'll just say is if we look at this competition historically, it takes a historically great MLS team to make a final and do well. Sounders winning it, Crew last year, LAFC what they were for that 2-3 year stretch when Vela was at his best and all of that, right? Like it takes a historically great team to do it, and maybe that's what this Miami team is. But does winning it one-off mean anything if the next 5 years it's just going to be?
Did it freeze?
I hate technology. That's all I have to say, folks, because it's still recording. So lovely. Okay.
What just happened?
All of a sudden, my internet browser that I'm on there we go. Just completely I guess exited out of everything. So maybe that's my computer saying that we need to stop talking about CONCACAF Champions Cup and roster spending. Maybe that's what it is.
I mean, the last thing I would just add is like, I don't want to. It's not like a hate on MLS thing, but it's like I don't want to just like you're saying in this scenario, we're probably going to have to put all our eggs in one basket, and I don't think Miami is so much better, or LAFC, whoever wins that matchup, is so much better than like Cincinnati that we have to do that every year. And it kind of sucks because I don't like going into a semifinal where there's one MLS team and 3 Liga MX teams.
Yeah, I agree. I don't have much more to add because then I can go on another 10-minute rant, and I'm not trying to do that.
I do agree, though, winning once
doesn't mean anything, almost.
I mean, it doesn't make me feel like we're here now. We
made it.
It's
no.
It's like we did, was it Seattle who won, or like who won the first time? Not like the first time, but like
Seattle. Like if we're talking the modern version of the tournament.
Yeah, and so that was like a huge step, and at the time I think I was like, oh wait, we kind of arrived, but no, we didn't.
But it should that should have been a turning point, is what I'm getting at, and I will leave it at that. We are throwing our let's go MLS banner all over Miami or LAFC, and that's pretty much it.
Again, I will talk myself into thinking all these teams can win everything.
I will talk myself into Herediano winning this competition, and fuck MLS and Liga MX all at the same time.
I don't know about that.
The last thing that I'll just quickly mention: Cincinnati got blown out midweek. They did beat Toronto FC 2-0 on the weekend. Kevin Denke scoring again. Yay. Okay, we are recording.
Very bad. So
we are recording before the Monterrey Vancouver game, America Chivas, Galaxy Herediano, Miami Cavalier, and Pumas Alajuelense. So we do not know the results of those games.
And you didn't put the scores on there.
If it is going to end up any which way that the games that the Sounders and Cincinnati game went, I'm going to say Monterrey eliminates Vancouver. Don't really care about America Chivas right now. I'm going to say Galaxy maybe get past Herediano, but they have an uphill battle. Don't care about Alajuelense Pumas, and I'm going to, knock on wood, safely assume Miami gets past Cavalier. We good with that?
Yeah, and I think we should maybe just talk about the Galaxy for I don't think too long, because we've talked about them enough this season for what they've actually put up, but it's starting to get concerning.
Galaxy lose to Alajuelense midweek, right? The 1-0 game down in Costa Rica. We talked about it last episode. Then on the weekend, week 3 action, Galaxy lose.
Herediano?
Yeah. Galaxy then lose on the weekend. Sunday Night Soccer, 3-0 in LA to St. Louis City. Galaxy are bad.
Kind of embarrassing fashion a little bit.
Galaxy are a bad team right now. Can I just openly say, like, they are not a playoff team or anywhere near it?
I do think this could have been 3-2. It probably could have also been 5-2.
St. Louis didn't convert 2 major chances.
I think Gabriel Peck just absolutely missed a sitter. And there was another chance. I forget who it was, but Royce kind of played it in, and it was a nice save. This was like a great score some goals game for St. Louis. They still have not allowed a goal this year. So, we know the defense is there. We know they're good.
Roman Berkey, 7 saves. Roman Berkey.
Some really nice saves.
And Chris Brady, top 2 goalkeepers so far through 3 weeks. Killing it. Both of them.
I'll take it.
I'm just saying.
Roman Berkey had a rough first week, I'll say.
Roman Berkey probably better right now, but both. If you're looking,
I'm not going to be offended when you say Roman Berkey's better than Chris Brady through 3 weeks.
Man. I was trying to stir up some drama there. Damn.
Oh, no way, dude. A guy who's played in Europe for most of his career.
Guy who's played in Champions League for one of the best teams. Yeah.
Versus Chris Brady, who's in like year 3 for the Fire.
Yes. So whatever. St. Louis really good, or not really good. I think St. Louis are on the path, and maybe this was a wake-up game for Toitchert and Hartzell and Betcher.
They looked really good. I mean, I think it could be a wake-up game and also a sign of things to come. Like, they have a very tough game, maybe game of the week worthy this upcoming week for Seattle. But if they can just keep defending well, like this offense is good enough to win them games. And I don't even want to say like it's good. Like it's actually good. It's not like a bad offense. It's just score some goals and you're probably going to win because the defense is very good and Roman Berkey is very good.
Yeah, I completely agree. All right. Philadelphia Union, you want to talk them? Because we probably should an hour in that they're undefeated, 3 wins in 3 games.
They're one of like 2 teams undefeated?
Vancouver and Philly are 3-0-0 on
things I didn't expect to say at the beginning of the season.
No. And I'll put my hand up. I am still not sold on Philly. Philly fans will probably hate me for that. I'm not sold that they're a top 4 team in MLS or the Eastern Conference even.
I mean, let's put it this way. They beat a New England team who hasn't scored yet.
Mm-hmm.
I'm scrolling through at the moment. They beat Cincinnati, which is a very good win.
That was a good win.
It's a rotated Cincinnati, but that doesn't take anything away. It's
still a good win, yeah.
And they beat Orlando at the beginning of the season. And
who've been letting up goals.
Jury's still out on Orlando. I mean, what they've beaten just Toronto. So yeah, I'm not ready to say Orlando's not good, but I'm not ready to say Orlando's a world beater.
I will just say this. Philly are, I think, clearly a playoff team. If the pressing that they've been showing keeps up like this, I think Ty Baribo is in the elevation to another tier level striker in MLS. Really like Indiana Vassilev. Jovan Lukic had his first goal in this game, but he has been such a key piece in that transitional midfield. They have a young center back, Owethu Makanya. He's been on a U22 deal for the last 2 years. He's only really played for Union 2. He's stepping up big. He had a great game. This team is looking really good. They're a very good team, and they are one of the best 5 teams in my eyes in Major League Soccer right now. And again, Philly fans will probably still hate that I don't have them higher, but whatever.
I mean, their attack is just looking beautiful, right? Ty Baribo, Mikel Uri, Quinn Sullivan's playing well.
Quinn Sullivan, yes.
Is he young enough for Young Player of the Year?
I don't think so. But forget about his brother. Who's Kevin Sullivan? Give me Quinn. I'm a Quinn guy.
But when this team wins the ball, it's like pinball between these guys into the net. It's really nice to watch, which who knows if it continues this way. But right now, tune into Philly games. They're fun.
My worry is, does the press just fall out mid-season because
when the legs get a little tired?
These guys are injured, tired, whatever. That's my worry. But we will see. The Revolution, big worry. The only team in MLS to not score a goal in 3 games. Jason, defend your guy. Defend Caleb. Go.
I'm just going to keep saying that maybe they need more time. I'm getting towards the point where it's starting to –
what did I tell you?
Starting to get difficult, but again, it's like a full new starting 11. I'm not gonna sit here and say I'm excited, but I'm also not gonna sit here and say I'm going back on my word. So
I will just say,
if we get to week 10 and it's still looking.
Caleb Porter is the coach on the hot is the number one coach on the hot.
I know. I didn't think it would start this bad. No goals. No goals, dude. What are you doing? Everyone has scored.
I literally said to you in the season previews, I go, if the first few weeks of the season are absolutely trash from the New England Revolution, and you were like, no, it's not going to be. It might be slow. This is as bad as I think you could possibly get.
They had no goals versus so they played Columbus, Nashville, and Philly. Philly, who obviously is better than what we all thought they would be. Columbus, who's Columbus, and Nashville, who they probably should have scored on. I'm not super out, but who did they play this week? They played you guys, New York City.
Oh, there we go. Big. We'll keep up the performances, boys.
You're gonna win. Yep. Honestly, I'm not. It's 3 weeks in. It's probably as bad as even I could have expected. I did not think it was going to be like this slow. I kind of had faith in Caleb Porter. I still think there's a shot here, though. I don't want to suddenly heel turn on my take and then see in 3 weeks that they win 3 straight or something.
I understand.
I'm sticking with what I'm saying. I think firing Porter now would be too premature, even though we're getting very close to me saying fire Caleb Porter.
All right, Jason, I'm going to turn this to you. Give me one other game or team that you want to talk about, and then we're going to go into Jason's picks because we talk a lot about stuff.
I think maybe we want to talk about Atlanta versus the Rebels because it was billed as this great game, ended up being almost not worth talking about, but at the same time, this is another team, I think, in Atlanta, which I'm pretty high on. I mean, both of these teams are good. I think we know where the Rebels kind of were last year, and we previewed it and whatnot. But yeah. I think for me, Atlanta, while they kind of they definitely have a new look attack, right? They spent a lot of money. Latte Loth, some of my kind of bad misses, but I'm not concerned, I guess, to put it this way. Obviously, that's 2 games now without a goal, right? They didn't score the week before.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly.
Yeah.
But I'm not worried at all.
No, I think purely just based off the eye test, Atlanta looks a little disjointed, a little disconnected
But
because,
they're still creating
well, that's what I'm
good
saying.
chances.
I think because a lot of these guys just haven't played together, but just
I
based off
think
the eye
their
test,
chances,
Atlanta
like
looks
you're
strong.
saying, they're like a foot away, like just off speed by a tiny bit, and it's causing it to not look amazing. But you can see like it working itself out.
Yeah.
So I think with
Comparison,
Atlanta, I fully expect them to go put up 5 goals at some point.
I think Atlanta will click, where in comparison, the Revs, I haven't even seen much of clicking anything.
We
So
didn't need to go back to that. We
I'm
did
just saying,
not need to go back to
if we're
that.
comparing it to teams who haven't scored in recent weeks,
There is a very, very good Sunday night soccer game.
yes. Just really quickly, Red Bulls, right, defensively super strong. That's what the Red Bulls are. Once again, showed it. I really like Noah Isla out at like right back.
Yeah.
He's a very tall right back, which is very weird to see sometimes on the field. But he has looked very good there, so I'll give him that. And Red Bulls are playing around with the back three, back four. It's all transitioning, switching, all that fun stuff. Jason,
real quick. Because just to defend the Revs a little bit,
yes,
Austin's looking very bad.
Okay, yeah, Austin 1-0 loss,
and they spent like $60 million on 3 players. So, no offense to Austin fans, I don't mean this in any way. I'm just simply saying the Revs deserve some time, as much as Austin deserves time too.
Can I just? I agree. If I'm putting up Atlanta. If I'm putting up the Revs, I think Austin's right in the middle of like.
I mean, Atlanta's 0. Like, if I'm going like percentage of worry, Atlanta 0%.
Well, I'm just putting it on a scale for the listeners of Austin still needs time. This was the first game where Bukhari, Vasquez, and Ozuni all started.
Yeah.
Ozuni didn't look great, but I know he's coming off an injury, and he's
one really good chance. I'll say.
Yeah,
off the top of my head, but
I like to think he, again, adjusts, comes back from his injury. I still think the 3 of those guys need some time playing together. I don't have concerns for Austin, but I can see it going poorly, I guess. And where
I mean, yeah.
Where I don't see Atlanta going poorly and I see the Revs just going poorly. Like, that's the scale in my brain. So Colorado, just shout out. That was a beautiful assist from Georgi Mihailovic, by the way. That ball to Navajo was just chef's kiss. Excellent. Yeah. I'm going to just quickly run through these other score lines, Jason, while you get your picks ready for the weekend. DC.
Dude, I already got them ready like earlier before we started. And then I'm like, as I scrolled through, there's a decent amount of good games this week. So I don't know. You might want to throw one in there.
All right, I'll toss in 1 or 2. But DC take down Sporting Kansas City 2-1. New York City beating Orlando City 2-1 on the 10-year anniversary celebration of New York City. Let's keep going. Chicago Fire take down FC Dallas 3-1 on the road.
Needed a win. That's our first win of the season. So.
That's a big Chris Brady performance, big Hugo Kuiper's performance. The fullbacks coming up big, and Dallas's back line sucking. So. Yeah.
I mean, Kuipers is giving me – he's looking good already. So I think this New Look Fire team, again, another team that probably needs a little bit of time to gel, but they're looking good so far.
I agree.
Nashville – it was a disaster. But.
Yes. It's week 1, new team, new manager, all that stuff. Nashville SC take down the Portland Timbers 2-0. Nashville scoring their first goals of the year, not like the Revs. RSL losing to San Diego FC 3-1 at home. San Diego, big performance, like super strong performance, and there was no Chucky Lozano in this game. RSL, I have my concerns and my questions. Vancouver Whitecaps beat CF Montreal 2-0 at home. Biggest story out of this one was Ryan Gauld exiting with an injury. It's not season-ending. It was non-contact, but he will be out only a few weeks, so Ryan Gauld will be back in 2025.
Amazing for my Whitecaps.
That is some great news there. And then the last game, San Jose losing to Minnesota United 1-0 at San Jose. Kelvin Yeboah, my guy, goals in back-to-back games. Minnesota's defense looking good. San Jose not looking bad, but I think now they faced an elevated team in terms of talent, and I think this is the proper result from what you're going to see, right? San Jose played some lower tiered teams, and now you go up against the Minnesota, and they kept it close, and that's all.
I mean, this is like in terms of teams that kind of recreated themselves that are hitting, this is at the top of the list.
For sure.
So even with the loss here, like I wouldn't be upset about it at all. A 1-0 loss to a good Minnesota team.
And there was no Hernan Lopez. He was out with the red card. So
also, Christian Espinoza missed by like inches on that free kick. So
yes. All right, Jason, give me your games of the week. Give me your Saturday and your Sunday games.
I think the Sunday. Well, I'll start with Saturday. There's a couple good ones on Saturday.
I'll pick a Saturday game too, so we'll both.
I think there's 3 that I would really pick, and they're all at different times. But I'm going to lead with the late night game, San Jose versus Colorado, because
really,
I personally think that's going to be like a flying game a little bit. I think both of these teams can score, and both of these teams are fast. In terms of pace, I expect that to be like a pretty back and forth game.
I can see that game finishing like 3-3. I could also see it finishing like 1-0.
If it finishes 0-0 or 1-0, I will be surprised.
Okay. Well, if I'm going with a Saturday pick, I'm actually going with the other late night game. San Diego Columbus seems like fun. I don't know. Back out in San Diego, you get game number 2 out there. You're playing a Columbus team that's now eliminated from Champions Cup. Their focus
are they pissed off, or are they?
Maybe Wilfred Nance's out here throwing all of the the tactics against the wall, and we're just going to see Columbus just absolutely open it up against San Diego. I don't know. Can San Diego keep it up? Is Chucky Lozano playing? There's a lot of questions. I'm all here for all of the questions. So, I like that game. Obviously, there's a few choices on Saturday, but give me some.
Honorable mentions on that one.
Give me your Sunday game.
Sunday is pretty easy for me. Portland versus LA is going to be a disaster.
I really thought you were about to pick that. I was like, wow.
I mean, I almost would pick that just to see the chaos that happens in that game. Like, that's a crazy matchup for Sunday.
It's going to be a thrilling 0-0.
No, the game is Atlanta versus Miami. Like, it's going to be the best game in that day easily. In terms of like chaos and fun, though, I could see Portland versus LA being kind of crazy. Like if LA can't score in this game, then we got to start talking about some historic turnaround for a team from winning MLS Cup.
Can I say same for Portland? If they can't score in this game, then there's an issue. They scored one
but
goal.
I think we kind of went into the season expecting Portland to be like meh, kind of mediocre. It's
still gotta win games. That still has.
They're not gonna win games. They're not good, dude.
Fair. Fair.
I guess just not that good, but I didn't expect LA to have 1 goal all season, and like their expected goals were like 2.5 for the whole season. Might even be worse than that. I don't know.
It's not good for both of those teams. So I'm forced to go with Philly, Nashville, which I honestly think could be a fun game. I'm not opposed to that being fun. Nashville,
I'm not really looking forward to that. I mean, I'll watch it, but I'm not like, ooh. Also, I love this 3 games on Sunday deal.
I agree with that. Nashville looked really good last week, obviously against the bad Portland team, but I haven't hated the eye test for Nashville so far through 3 games. I know they didn't score for 2 weeks. Defensively, Nashville are looking good. I think it's looked better. I think that going up against the Philadelphia Union team that is obviously on fire right now could be a bunch of fun. BJ Callahan, he was a former assistant manager with the Philadelphia
Honestly, you should have picked Portland versus LA.
No, I'm convinced. Philly, Nashville, game of the week.
I can't wait till Portland, the Galaxy is just going to be like such a fun game. I actually genuinely think it'll be a fun game. It'll just be like so stupid.
It'll be fun and good are 2 different words.
Agreed. 100% agreed. That's why I'm specifying it will be fun. It will not be good.
All right, folks. Thank you guys so much. There's a technical error in between all of this, and this has just been one of those episodes, one of those weeks. If you guys, wherever you're listening, subscribe, review, rate, all that fun stuff. Enjoy your MLS soccer and whatever's left of your Champions Cup hopes this week, and we will talk to you guys next week. Jason, thank you, sir. We are out.